What is going on, Colts Nation? He is Jamal. I am Eric, your co-host of the Colts Cast.
Yo.
Jamal, I got an emphatic intro coming up. Hey,
Mm.
look, weighing in at 230 pounds, with a playoff resume of 1 win and 2 losses, with an overall record of 54-60-1 during his tenure, 7-time general manager for the Indianapolis Colts, going into his 8th season. Give it up for Chris motherfucking Ballard.
Talk to him.
Look,
wow.
Look,
what an intro.
Let's start with the quote of the week, and I quote: "If it gets me fired, so be it." End quote.
Bruh. Wow.
Man, so okay, we've both watched the conference. I think he said, I'm not really mad at what he said. I more want to talk about, what's the biggest question here, Jamal? Is it a make or break season ahead for Chris Ballard? What is his standing with the Indianapolis Colts? Like I said, going into his 8th season, I want to just say the average tenure for an NFL GM, I would say is about 3 to 4 years from the research I could do. Jamal, I Colts Cast fans in here know they know Jamal's stance on Chris Ballard, but I'm ready to hear it again. I like to get a refresher, a little training, a little refresher course.
Lead into week 1. Hey, before you get that refresher course, go and hit that like, subscribe button for us. Drop a comment below. Tell us what you think about Eric's intro to the game, talking to everybody out there today, letting you know we bringing in Mr. Chris Ballard himself. Like you mentioned, man, that quote he said, it's if it gets me fired, so be it. That was a hell of a quote to say based off of the question that was asked. And, I respect it. I respect the way when he can say, hey, if he gets me fired, then it is what it is. He's sticking to his guns and he's made it clear that what he's doing is what he wants to do. And in Chris Ballard fashion, I think that's kind of why we are in some of the position that we are. Of course, all of it's not his fault. And like you mentioned, Eric, not everything he said in that press conference was all bad. We can go down the rabbit hole of Andrew Luck retiring and so on and so forth.
Yes. Because that happened literally at the basically beginning when he took over. So it is hard to watch a franchise quarterback just retire just shockingly out of nowhere. How do you pick up from there? So I think that's why.
I'm just kidding.
I think that's why his tenure has been, relatively a little longer than most. I think Jim Irsay knows like it's really hard to restart from something like that. But I mean, I don't know if everyone knows how I feel on Chris Ballard. I'm pretty neutral towards the situation because, right now, let's be honest, his success, his job actually is directly linked to Anthony Richardson's success or failure. That's basically what it is. If Anthony Richardson becomes franchise quarterback, boom, Chris Ballard's still here. If we fail, if he's a bust, if this team doesn't succeed with Richardson under center, with all the pieces we have in place, I think he's out of here. And I don't think Shane Steichen would be out as soon as that happens, but I think we like to make chess moves with one piece. It's not a group of them going away. We can go back to the Frank Wright era. We got rid of Frank Wright. Well, first we got rid of our OC, then we got rid of Frank Wright. But Chris Ballard kind of didn't go there. So that makes me think, look, if you didn't send him out the door with Frank Wright, you got a few more years here in Indy to show us what you're made of as a GM. But man, I think because he doesn't take big swings, right? We see this in free agency all the time. Doesn't take big swings. We're not going to make that blockbuster trade. We're not going to make that blockbuster signing. But I think he took a big swing here with the number 4 overall pick with Anthony Richardson. He was a project coming out of college, and that's what everyone, touted him as, this raw, unbelievable talent. So you got to give him a few years. Like, it is insane the amount of hate Anthony Richardson got in 2 preseason games coming back from a season-ending injury. We were ready, not we. let me rephrase that. Y'all was ready because it wasn't wait. Y'all was ready to write that man off and still are. People are still out on him. This man is 22 years old. He's younger than like all the quarterbacks starting in the NFL. It's crazy to me, Jamal, because he hasn't even gotten essentially a full year. I mean, if you want to count his rookie season and say, yeah, he got that year, that counts, that's fine. But like, look, Justin Fields, he got 3 years before the Bears said, yo, you out of here. We taking Caleb Williams. Kenny Pickett, he at least got 2 years before they shipped that man out. Baker Mayfield with the Browns, 4 years, and he's still a starting quarterback. So debatable. I the Browns made one of the worst decisions, it looks like, of all time with that trade and signing all that fully guaranteed money to a guy who ain't doing nothing. Josh Allen exploded in the third year. Took him 3 years, right? Jalen Hurts, y'all was riding him off 2.5 years. Like, give this man some time, right?
Yeah, you definitely got to give Richardson some time. I mean, without a question, without a shadow of a doubt, you got to give Richardson time because he deserves it. You can't write someone off again who had literally didn't even have a rookie year. Second year, we have a lot of healthy people around him, a lot better system that's going to be around him as well. That's just elevated and increased even from year one with him being in there, and even the thought process of going into drafting him 2 years ago. We had to think about the system that was currently there. With Reich and everything being fired, it was just a mess of a mess. So yeah, so I do agree with you when you say that Ballard. The honest portion is everybody who understands sports should understand that at this point, Ballard's going nowhere, whether we like it or not. We're only in year 2 of Richardson, year 2 of Steichen. He ain't going anywhere right now. Do I agree with that? No. But I don't care. I don't care about that. But I also know the reality of the situation is that he ain't going anywhere right now. It's going to take a lot for that to happen. And we saw Irsay for the first time and forever get a little aggressive, even with the firing of Frank Reich. I mean, he's never fired a coach midseason. So when that happened, I said, oh, okay, well, could we have something in store for Ballard? No, we didn't have anything in store for him. But I just don't see Irsay at this point making a call like that, especially with what's going on. It's a very exciting time, I would say, for the team, especially with majority of the team being to where it needs to be. We still obviously have the biggest thing with our defense. But what stood out to me a lot, besides that quote that he said about if it gets me fired, so be it, blah blah blah, whatever, was when he said the guys are young and they're going to grow. So he was talking about the secondary group and the safety room, about being young and needing to grow. Well, then I started thinking about it. Eric, really on the squad, every group that he talked about the linemen being, in basically pristine condition, talked about the running back core being great, talked about the wide receiver core being great, and so on and so forth. Well, you know what I noticed about all these people have veteran players on there. They're not all young. Now, of course, everybody starts young. I completely get that. But the Zaires, I don't want to say Blake Freeland because I did not Ryman. The Rymans and these guys, they all they all have vets around them. Alec Pierce, AD Mitchell, they have MPJ around them, a vet around them to help elevate their game.
Let me interject real quick. I keep saying Adonai Mitchell, and I figured out why. We have a friend named Adonis. So
you're just throwing that, yeah.
Yeah, so I should be saying Adonai, but yeah. I'm just like, my silly brain is just going to so I apologize for the
look at that
incorrect pronunciation. I've been getting killed in the comments for it. So Adonai Mitchell, but go ahead, Jamal.
Yeah. And so what I'm getting at is that all these groups, all of our core groups right now have veteran players to help them, to teach them, to help them grow and develop again. And I was even saying from the beginning that I don't even care so much about having the vet out there to get every single snap. I really was looking out there for a vet to help teach, help grow and develop some of these guys. So I think that is still just a disservice to ignore the spot and then, again, talk like, hey, they're young, they have to grow, they have to play. Well, we see the injuries and all these things happen. So they're not physically playing. So why don't we do something to helped the group out. He talked about Nick Cross as well. Now he's elevated his game, and they kind of put him on a somewhat of a pedestal from the beginning, even though he is a young guy. And I agree. I mean, Nick Cross has looked really good, and I'm glad to see that. And I obviously know that nothing's going to change what we have for our secondary at this point, unless injuries do happen. But I still think it'll be next man up at that point. But my point is that when we think about all the successful portions of the team where we stand right now, they all have veteran pieces that have a presence in the locker room, on the field, and so on. That's going to help bring this team together. Even in the quarterback room, even though Richardson is the starter, you got Joe Flacco back there behind him who can teach him everything under the sun, another veteran presence. Julian Blackmon is the veteran in the safeties room. You know what I mean? We talk about Juju Brents. He's going to be a vet. Obviously, Kenny Moore is going to be a vet on the squad for us, but Juju hasn't played enough to solidify himself right now. So when I think about these guys, everyone around them has these pieces of the puzzle. And Ballard made a good point. He also said, everybody has a void. Every team has a void. Other teams are just good at covering up some of their voids by highlighting some of their good things. And that's a very, very true point. Every team, when we look at Kansas City, we thought they were going to have plenty of holes when we saw all the drop balls this year. But guess what? They figured it out because they made adjustments. Colts have to make adjustments. That's what I want to see is adjustments. I don't want to see the 28th passing defense out there again. I want to see adjustments being made. I don't care. Again, that I've always said it before. I don't care that the defensive line can rush up there and get to the quarterback, because if the quarterback gets the ball out of his hands, there's no man's land. We don't know what's going to happen then. So I guess I'll round it out by saying,
you don't care about our pass rush?
I care about our pass rush. But what I'm saying is that the pass rush can be God's greatest gift to earth. But if you still get a chance to get the ball out there to a weak secondary, it don't matter. And I think my biggest gripe about all of this is Ballard comes in with the bullish talk, and I respect the fact that he's as confident in himself, but it's somewhat of an arrogance where you haven't even. I won't say you haven't even, but you haven't displayed the confidence. You walk in the room and talk like you're the president, the CEO, and everything else. That means you got to walk in there, with your big boy britches on, because you've displayed everything. Eric, if you walk into your job right now and you talk the way Ballard talked at your job, knowing that you aren't at the highest of the totem pole, I don't think people are going to respect that. So I just kind of
get the highest of the totem pole, basically, of the organization.
Of the organization, yes, but he hasn't displayed the results of someone who can come in with this bullish talk about how, hey, if I get fired, it is what it is, but I'm standing by what I stand, because you haven't produced the results that warrant you to say that, in my humble opinion. But I'll let you do your thing for a minute. But I obviously, like I said, is it a make or break season? It should be, but the reality of it is Irsay doesn't have it in him to make a call like that. He did the Frank Reich thing because there was a lot of pressure on the table, and Frank Reich, there was clear and obvious that Frank Reich wasn't the man for the job. But I think he's a little more afraid of Ballard than that, so he won't make a call like that. So Ballard's here to stay for the foreseeable future. Unfortunately for a lot of us, that's just not a good look. But just don't be that bullish if you're not displaying the results.
I mean, that's fine. I know you hate Chris Ballard, and that's okay. A lot of people do. Maybe he should have left with Frank Reich. But now, like I said, he's tied to Richardson. He's tied to Steichen. He's got a lifeline, basically. I will say the pass rush, I disagree with that. I think if you can create havoc up front, you make life easier for these linebackers and coverage for the secondary, the safeties, the cornerbacks. You make life a little easier because maybe the receiver hasn't ran their full route. Maybe the corners get a chance to jump the route before the ball's even thrown. The quarterback has to make a faster decision. I know NFL, it's always about time to throw. You want to get that under 3 seconds, give or take. But if you can make that a little lower to that 2 second, closer to there, it's better for our defense in general, unless you're going up against guys. I mean, even guys like Patrick Mahomes, like even in regular season, we were able to limit him a little bit to even get close to winning that game. That was a crazy game. I remember that 2 years ago. But I think, especially with the loss of Ibukam and adding Latu to kind of just being that hopefully interchangeable replacement. And I don't know if he can play at Ibukam's level, because Ibukam was playing at a very high level last season.
Yeah.
It would be amazing. But no, you're right. I mean, the secondary is very young. I think, he's kind of treating this team like a dynasty fantasy football team.
Yeah, yeah,
Like
yeah.
he
They
wants to
got
let
30
his
years.
yeah, he wants to let his young guys grow. So he's like, man, I'm gonna basically have a rebuilding team almost. I mean, but we're not in that situation on some levels. We got some guys that are up there that are veterans that are playing at a very high level. So we have a mixture of both. But I'm kind of on your side, Jamal. I'm like, when are we going to see these results? When are we
Mhm.
gonna? When is that going to come to fruition? Because 8 years and we're still letting the parts of the team grow. It's just I feel like we're lagging behind. We could have added some massive talent over the past few years to help out that not only content creators like us have kind of pointed out, but NFL analysts like they talk about our secondary, things like that. Like people are pointing it out. It's not just us. The fans are pointing it out. It sounds like he likes to go against the grain. He doesn't want to do what everybody else is doing, but what everybody
Mhm.
else is doing is generating some success. So, while Chris Ballard hasn't been a complete failure by any means,
No, not at all.
I don't think he's yielded, high quality results in his time with Indy. I mean, you think like you go back to his first round picks like Malik Hooker, 2017 draft. I mean, he found Grover Stewart. 2018, he found Quentin Nelson, Braden Smith, Darius Leonard. Like that was a really good draft. Zaire Franklin with the
Mhm.
last pick in the seventh. Like he's had some gems, but you go to the 2019 draft, Rocky Scene, Paris Campbell, Bobby Okereke, and these guys aren't here anymore. And it's either because they've left Indy, we've let them walk, or they didn't pan out. Um, 2020, Michael Pittman, Jonathan Taylor, Julian Blackman. Like he has hits and it's pretty consistent, but something about it, and I won't say pretty consistent because then you go to next year's draft, Kwity Paye. Like, has he been,
Mhm.
has he hit expectations as a first round pick? I'm not sure. I can't say that. Yeah, I think we'll be able to say it after
Sure,
this year,
sure.
especially with the lost Viacom again. Like this is his year. He's playing on that option. But yeah, you go into that, Jamal, and he picked Shane Steichen out. He helped pick Anthony Richardson out. So you got to give them. I think he's on a lukewarm seat because I think even after this year, he's going to get another chance. So let's say we miss
Yeah,
playoffs.
yeah.
I would think 2025 would be his final seat. Like that would be make or break. This year is kind of like Jim Irsay. He's got the gun. It's loaded. There's one in the chamber, but he ain't gonna pull it till like end of 2025. He's just got it locked and ready. I just think he's tied too much to their success. So you can't just ship Chris Ballard out because he has done some great things, but we've criticized him for some other things as well.
For sure. And listen, I mean, I like you said, those draft picks that have been hits. And I fully agree that those ones that are in there are fine. Ballard definitely has done a job of trying to pick more under the radar players. And I like that. I mean, I do think it's nice to explore some of these players that because
Yeah.
everyone deserves that chance.
Did
And I
did
think that's dope.
did you think he was gonna was it on anyone's radar that Laiatu Latu was going to
Well,
be that pick?
Well, that's because we didn't get the trade up that he wanted. If he would have got trade up he wanted, then that would have been a non-factor.
Do we know
I
that?
yeah, he was not going to pick Latu at number 6 or wherever he was trying to go. There's no if he would have done that, then he should have been, like I said, public, get him out of here, get him out of here. But here's what I'll say. Here's what I'll say though, is in my opinion is this: like you said, the bad is there. That's plainly obvious. The good is there as well. But I think there's a lot of mediocrity with it, and I think that he's found being mediocre is found staying in the middle of the pack because again, you don't need to make you don't have to splurge. You don't have to splurge every year in free agency. You don't have to splurge every year in the draft. However, I do think he's made his living off of picking the lesser known players and he rolls with that because it's helped him to mediocrity to where we're still sub 500 overall for his tenure here, and he's okay with that because, and again I always refer back to this, but when Paris Campbell said this on the Trenches podcast, when he said he was never worried about anything in Indianapolis because he knew he was the man here. And PC when he left, Paris Campbell bounced around and did nothing since he's left. Let's call a spade a spade. You know what I mean? But Paris Campbell he said he was never worried when he was in Indianapolis, and that's what I'm talking about with the mediocrity. Yeah. No one's worried about where they stand here, yep. and that's the part that bugs me, because it's just like how are you wanting to run the organization when you don't care that players know that they aren't there? There's no threat. There's no other wide receiver. There's no other player stepping up to them to take their spot. So that's what I'm talking about when I say it really bugs me that he's fine with mediocrity. I understand that everybody can't be the Chiefs. Everybody can't go to the playoffs every single year. I'm not asking for playoffs every single year. What I am asking for, though, is in one of the weakest divisions. Probably people will say the weakest division in the NFL.
It's not, though. No.
It's not. It's not. No, not anymore, at least. I'm saying people would probably say that. I don't agree with that, but people probably say that. I would like to see some elevation in this game and stop using the tactics of, hey, I do what I do. It's basically my way or the highway, even though that's, I don't know. It just doesn't sit right with me, because again, mediocrity is there. And I think that if you don't want to elevate your game to be the best, he's not worried about his seat is what I'm getting at. His seat is cold right now. His seat probably feels like a meat freezer right now, because if Paris Campbell wasn't worried about his job, I can guarantee you Chris Ballard ain't worried about his job. Chris Ballard is not worried about it. At least, like you said, at least for the next 3 years.
You ain't wrong, because like Sam Ehlinger, he QB3 for life.
Exactly.
And he getting that money.
Exactly.
He making way more money than me.
The minimum salary for NFL players $750,000. If I was Sam, I would say, dog, whatever you need me to do, I'm there. Yeah, because I'm riding
you ain't wrong.
The wheels fall off. Yeah, that's what. So like it's and honestly. And it's crazy, because like that's just the stuff that just tees me off. I don't know what it is about it. And I'm not saying that other organizations aren't like that, because we're so honed in on the Colts that I understand that we hyper focus on them. But like just those kind of talks and that kind of like mentality is not what got the Colts to the Super Bowl back in the day. That's not. We heard Edge say it. We heard how Edge talked about, I got a freaking thing up in my room right now, what Peyton Manning said, I never left the field saying I couldn't have done more. Like that's the kind of mentality we need on the squad. We need dogs out here who's going to get the job done and come in every single, not people who say, I ain't worried about my job, dog. Not the Sams who like, yo, I'm chilling at QB3. That kind of stuff bugs me, man. And again, I think that's just starts from the top and it's a trickle down from there. So if one person up top ain't really stressing it, ain't flexing on it, then why should anybody else? I understand that Steichen's coming. He's been a little bit more of an authoritative figure for what it's been, as far as it goes for suspension and all that kind of stuff. But I still just feel like it's just like, hey, we do our thing. We get a couple dubs. We're fine. Life's good. Everybody's paid. Everybody's happy. What are we worried about? So I don't know.
Dang.
I'll leave it at that. I don't know.
I ain't got to say nothing else. Why y'all cut Micah Abraham, though? From y'all told me he had neck. All right, let me stop. Hey,
yeah, go ahead.
Look, that was our Chris Ballard, our annual update on Chris Ballard. Look, we had a lot to say about it. Want to hear your thoughts if you're still with us at the 22, 23-minute mark. Hey, if you're on YouTube, go ahead, pin those comments in the comment section. That's going to be it for us, everyone. Thank you for listening to the Colts Cast today. We are live on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, YouTube, or any platform you use to listen to podcasts, and we'll be back next time to give you some more Indianapolis Colts content. Later.
Take it easy.